I was thinking here specifically in the role of the African Union as now a new member of the G20. So it's in this context that I was wondering, how do you think the AU's G20 membership can benefit Africa, can help Africa to position itself in this changing global order? And what are the steps that the African Union needs to take for these potential benefits to materialize?
That is really a very important question today, Cedric. We are in a moment of major shifts happening in global relations and power dynamics. And in this context, part of that equation is the increasing profile and role of regional organizations. And the African Union is really at the heart of this increasing changing role and profile of regional organizations. It's one of two regional organizations to be a member of the G20. So it is added to the European Union. Now, in terms of benefits, remember the G20, despite not being a universally, membership platform, the policy debates and directions that it sets ultimately shapes and informs policy decisions relating to global trade, relating to global financial regulations and rules, relating to global economic relationships. All right, and Africa has been on the receiving end of this decision-making process. It was not on the table, and that makes a hell lot of a difference. When you are on the receiving end of these decision-making processes, you basically do not have any role or agency to shape and inform them, including on some of the things that directly impact you and affect you, such as, for example, today we talk of a major debt crisis affecting increasingly large number of African countries on the continent. And the G20 debt framework is one of the parameters and indeed the mechanisms that actually determines how debt issues are addressed. Today we are in a moment when there is growing call for changing and reforming this G20 debt framework, and African Union being on the table would make a hell lot of a difference in terms of actually what the change has to be and what role need, for example, daters have to have, because much of the decision making is made on the basis of the interests and needs largely of creditors, and the interest of debtors is not usually one that makes the most important element in much of the decision making on debt and debt restructuring and so on. So it is from that perspective that we have to understand and see the importance of actually African Union's membership in the G20, that it enables Africa to exercise influence and agency both in setting the agenda. Then if it influences the setting of agenda in the G20, then it would be able to set an agenda that is adequately, to the extent possible, considerate of the interests and needs of the African continent. That is one side.